Okay, looks like we're going. So, punch needle embroidery is what we're going to be talking about today. Miniature punch needle embroidery. I first saw it years and years ago when we were in Kansas City at Quilt Market, and there were little punch needle embroideries in a lot of the booths. So I was quite taken with them. I'd never really seen it before, even though it had been around for a long time. It kind of made a resurgence at that time. And I went around to all the different booths and got demos of their style of doing it, bought a kit and brought it back to the hotel room, read all the instructions. And then when we got home, I tried it out and just loved it. So one of the things that I thought was kind of funny when we were at Quilt Market is that everybody was taking their punch needles and just framing them. So I'll show you what type of thing they were doing. So because it's punched on some type of fabric, usually weaver's cloth, they were taking them and putting them into a frame. So I think you can see that there. That's really easy to do. It's a super fast way to finish your punch needle. So basically you just get a frame with a mat and then take your little punch needle when it's all done and fold around the weaver's cloth to the back and then mount it into your frame. So all of the booths all had them framed like this. And I thought to myself, it's on fabric. Why wouldn't I sew it into something? So I wanted to put them into quilts, and that's what I ended up doing with most of my designs. So I have quite a few of them. I'm just going to show you a couple right now. So this one is not in a quilt, but it's framed, or basically it's on a little box. So this is a recessed top in the box. I just got these from Michael's and then put it into the top of that. So this is the type of thing that I wanted to do. And this is basically, the fabric has been appliqued onto the quilt. So I made the whole quilt first, and then I took the little punch needle design and appliqued it onto the quilt after I'd assembled it. This design, oh, he's right side up, is sewn into the quilt slash pillow cover. So the weaver's cloth is the white part here. So I just trimmed it, added borders, made it into a pillowcase. And this is just the pillow topper. So you can see on the inside, it's sewn just like a quilt. I've got borders on there and just added enough to make it the right size so that I could make it into my pillow cover. Now this is what the back of the punch needle looks like if you do it neatly. So that's what the back looks like. And then the front basically looks like a really tiny hooked rug. So I hope you can see. I'll try to get up close so you can see what it looks like. And I like it when it's all one layer, one level, because I like the way it looks like a little hooked rug. These ones here, I'll just show you a few more samples and then I'll do a little demo. So there's a rustic rooster, and that's been sewn with the borders and then just made into a quilt. And this is Allie's basket. There's my cat Allie. And the same thing, I just added the borders to make it into a pillow. And this is one of my favorite ways of finishing punch needle. Basically mounting it onto wool and making a penny rug or a little wall hanging. I really like the way that the texture of the punch needle goes with the texture of the wool. And we do a lot of stuff with wool here at Quiltworks, so it's just one of the ways that we've used wool in our projects. Excuse me. So you may have seen punch needle on the internet or Pinterest or whatever, and it looks like this. Okay, so this is punch needle. It's a bigger version of punch needle. This is using yarn. Mine is using embroidery floss. But if you see people talking about punch needle, they may be talking about this. And this is just another tool, a bigger tool that you use to make the loops on the front. This is what the back looks like. And a lot of times people will do punch needle and use the back. So they'll try to fill in this a bit closer so you don't see any lines in between the lines of the loops. But I personally like this side as the front because that's just what I started out with, and I love the look of hooked rugs, so I really like how this looks like a hooked rug. And when I first started doing rug punching, which is what I call this, so that I can distinguish between miniature punch needle and the big punching, I started because I loved hooked rugs, but I couldn't get the hang of hooking. So when I figured out how I could punch the back from the back and make rugs that look just like a hooked rug, I was hooked. So I love making rugs like this, but I now know how to hook much better, and I do love rug hooking as well. But if you find this is much faster, so if you find that rug hooking takes you forever, then this might be the way to go. So, but today I'm going to be talking about miniature punch needle. So that's the first samples that I showed you. So this is the punch needle that I use. So it's the Ultra Punch, and this is the one that we sell on our website. So this punch needle is adjustable. You can see here that this is the resting position, so the needle is not out on the tip. And then when you want to start, you push up on here. Can't see what I'm doing. And then put it into one of these numbers. And the number just gives you the depth of the loop on the front. So the higher the number, the bigger the loop is going to be. So all of my samples I do with 1, just because I like how it looks. I like it all nice and flat. It's very small. It doesn't move around the loops. I just like that. So, but if you wanted to add dimension to your piece, you could make the loops longer just by adjusting this number. So you just twist it to the middle and then push up, and you can see how long the needle is there versus how long it is when it's down at 1. So this is the punch needle that I really like. This is the one that I started with. I tried other ones, but I find this one, because it has a nice big handle, it's easy to hold and my hand doesn't cramp up. I tried the Russian punch needles, which are very small. The handle might be like a 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit bigger. And I just found that my hand was cramping a lot when I was trying to do it for any length of time. So this is the punch needle that we sell on our website. So that's it there, the Ultra Punch. And the set that we have has 3 different size needles in it. So there's a small, medium, and large. And I use the small most of the time, but because I use 3 strands of embroidery floss when I'm punching, if you wanted to use 6 strands, or you wanted to use a thicker yarn, or silk ribbon, if you want to do like they use for silk ribbon embroidery, you can use that too. As long as whatever you're punching with will flow through the handle of the punch needle, then you're good to go. So this comes with a nice instruction booklet, so it goes over everything that you need to know, and it's the best needle that I've found to use. So that's what I'm going to be using. Now, when you're punching, when you're threading your needle, you need to have a needle threader. So I think you can see that. It's very thin, and they do break eventually, so we have those for sale individually on the website as well. But basically, this is what you use to get the thread all the way through the handle of the needle. So the thread has to go, whatever type of thread you're using, has to go all the way through the handle and then out through the tip of the needle in order for the loops to stay in the front. So what I've got here is I've just taken some of my DMC floss that comes at 6 strands. I cut off a piece, so you can see it's, I don't know, 2.5 feet long. And I split it into 3 already, or into 2 groups of 3. So you can see I don't know if you can see, but I've got 3 strands of embroidery floss with me here, okay? I could use 6 if I was using a bigger needle, but I like the look of the small needle. So the other thing you need to have all prepped before you get going is your weaver's cloth. So this weaver's cloth is, it's an 80-20 blend. And this is what most people punch on. It comes in different colors. So we've got a natural, which is this one, and then a white. And unless you're going to have that weaver's cloth showing, like if you're making a pillow or a quilt or something, and you're going to leave some around the outside, it doesn't really matter what color it is if you're going to fold it to the back. So unless you're making something where you're going to have the weaver's cloth showing, you don't really need to worry about what color you get. So I usually use the natural, but if I didn't have the natural, I would use the white. So I've just drawn out a design on here. I've been doing the Sue Spargo cuppa embroidery, so I'm kind of obsessed with coffee cups right now, so I drew my own. It looks kind of wonky, but it was what I got last night when I was prepping. So this weaver's cloth, you have to have super tight in your hoop. These hoops that we have are the Morgan no-slip hoops. So that's what they look like here. I'll show you. We've got all sorts of different sizes, and these hoops are great for embroidery. They're also great for doing punch needle, and the larger ones, so we have a 10, the larger ones, and we can order in bigger ones, are great for doing rug hooking as well. So I do use a larger one of these when I'm rug hooking. So right now, I think I have a 6-inch, maybe. I don't know. I've had it for so long, I can't remember what size it is. So I've got it in, I've got my weaver's cloth in my hoop, and I've got it tightened, and you can see it's as tight as a drum. You can probably hear that. And it has to be that tight in order for your loops to stay at when you're punching. So if it's saggy, if you're pushing and you can feel the weaver's cloth moving, your loops aren't going to stay on the front. So you work from the back and they come out on the front. The reason the Morgan hoops hold things so nice and tight, they're no-slip hoop, is because of this little groove. Oops, I'm tightening instead of loosening it. Because of this little groove on the inside here. So the fabric goes over the edge of the inside loop down through this groove, which is kind of rough. And there's a matching bump on, I don't know if you can see, matching bump on the inside of the outer hoop. So it goes down and around and over top of that bump and then down. And it stays so tight and will not loosen up. So you can punch and punch and punch, and it's going to stay tight the whole time. You can use other types of hoops, like a Susan Bates hoop, or there's other types of hoops that have kind of a similar mechanism as this. But you can't use a wooden hoop or a metal hoop, you know, the old-fashioned hoops, because they don't stay tight. So you start punching and it loosens, and you tighten it up and you punch a couple and it loosens. So it's just more frustrating than anything. So if I can tell you anything, buy a good hoop, or buy a hoop that's going to keep it nice and tight. So the ones that I like to use are the Morgan ones that we carry on the website. So once you've got your fabric in your hoop, then you can get your thread in your punch needle. And it's the threading of the punch needle is probably the hardest part of the whole thing. So I'm just going to show you. You're going to take the threader and you put it in from the end of the needle until it pops out this side. So you can see it's come out there. Then I'm going to put my thread through there and pull. So out it comes through the tip of the needle, and then you take the threader again and put it through the eye of the needle, thread through the threader, and pull. Okay, so you can see that my thread is coming, I can pull it easily. So as long as you can pull the thread back and forth from the end to the tip, then you know that you're threaded correctly, okay, and you're ready to go. So I'm going to tip you down a little bit, so hopefully I won't mess it up, so that you can see my hands. Okay, so I hold the needle in my right hand. If you're left-handed, you would hold in your left hand. And you want to always make sure when you're punching that you can see the front of the needle. So you just start wherever you want, usually on the small details first. So I'm going to actually do like a line across my little teacup. So I hold it in my right hand and punch in and come out and in. And that's the whole stitch. Okay, just keep punching along. If you get to a corner or curve, then you turn the hoop, not your hand that's holding the needle, and then you just keep punching along. Okay, so the thread is 3 strands. On the back, it's nice and tight together. You can see, I think, my little line. But on the front, you can see that the thread has puffed up and spread out. So the thread takes up more room on the front of the piece than it does on the back, because it's the 3 strands of embroidery floss, and when you push them through, they open up. So you've got the 3 strands out like this. So when you're punching on the back, you want to make sure you're punching quite close together. Okay, so you're not moving very far when you're punching. And then when you get to a corner, you put it into the hoop and turn, okay? And then you just keep filling in that area until, whoops. And if you do that, if you come up and you've got a long strand, just put your tip where you want to go. I don't know if you can see this. And then pull on the back thread. Okay, so I pulled on the back, and then I don't have that big bunch of thread anymore. So then you can just keep going. Okay, biggest thing is you want to keep your hands out of the way of the needle because it is very sharp. And there's my stitches on the front. So you just keep filling it in until the whole area is full. And then the back, if you're getting your stitches nice and close together, then it should look something like that on the back. So see how I didn't go all the way beside. So when I put the next row in on here, I didn't go right beside the first row of stitches because it takes up more room on the front. And if you keep smashing your lines together on the back and you've got it all filled back here, then the front is going to be so full of embroidery floss that it's going to just it'll just be so thick that it won't lay flat. So you'll have this piece, you take it out of the hoop and it'll be like this, and then there's no way you're going to get it flat. So you just have to learn, once you get your stitches close together and get the practice in, then you know that you can make your rows farther apart, and then the front will have the right number of stitches in it. And it's easy if you miss some stitches to go in and fix that. We have oh, I don't know if you noticed. Oh, one thing I didn't tell you. So when you're done stitching and you don't want to use blue anymore, then you can just hold down the stitches that you put in and pull up on your needle, okay? And then once you've got it like that, you use your nice sharp scissors and just clip it off. And this other thing that I ended up, like at my beginning, I just clipped that off too. You don't have to tie them, you don't have to knot them, you don't have to thread them through, because once you've got all your stitches in there, there's so many stitches in that area that they hold each other tight. And once you take it out of the hoop, it kind of shrinks up a little bit too. You steam it and then you get it so that it's nice and flat, and those stitches won't come out. They're in there for good. Unless you were to pull one and just tug on it, then they would come out. But just general wear and tear, like me demoing and showing these none of these stitches have come out, and they've been touched many times. So the scissors that I have around my neck, I have 3 pairs of these, and I have one in every bag that I use. So when I'm doing embroidery, I have one in that bag, and I have one in my punch needle bag, and I have one at the sewing machine on lanyards so I can't lose them. These little scissors are great because they have a curved tip, and you see? So when you go in to your fabric, there's no chance of you clipping your fabric. You can get nice and close to the thread and to the fabric and clip it. So you're not running the risk of cutting something you don't want to. So those are the little Fiskars curved scissors. That's what we've got. And we do have a few books on punch needle. So this book is mostly about the rug punching, but she does talk a little bit about punch needle because it is the same process basically. So you work from the back when you're doing this type of punch needle as well. And then you just use a larger needle and larger thread. So you would use like yarn to do this type of punching. And then we do have another book on miniature punch needle. So I'm seeing that everything is backwards, so you can believe me, that says punch needle on there. And this is my book that I wrote quite a few years ago about miniature punch needle. And it's called Fresh and Fun because I used all sorts of bright colors. All the punch needle pieces I had seen were all done in country kind of colors. And I just wanted to do something bright and cheerful. So this is the book that I wrote. So one thing that I really wanted to do, I've taught punch needle lots and lots of times. And I've demoed punch needle, I don't know how many times at quilt shows, just like this. But what I wanted to do was come up with an online course because I always had people saying they wish they could come to take a punch needle class, but it didn't work into their schedule or it was too far away. So Nellie and I really wanted to start getting some online courses onto our website. So we just launched our punch needle course about 2 weeks ago, and we've had really good results from it. And basically it's what I've just done for you, but much more in depth. So I go all the way from what kinds of needle, what kind of different supplies you need to have, and then I show you how to thread the needle step by step. I show you how to get your design onto your weaver's cloth, how to hoop it the right way, how to punch, what order to punch everything in, and I give you really good close-up demo of all the punching. And then at the end, I talk about all the different ways to finish your punch needle pieces. And I also give a little demo at the very end about the rug punching. So I talk a little bit about the Oxford rug punch that we sell and how you thread it and how you punch with it. And I am going to be doing a little demo about that tomorrow on here, so you can check that out. So along with our punch needle course that we've got on our website, we came up with a kit to for beginners to get so that they can do the punch needle course and have all the supplies that they need. So basically what we give you is some weaver's cloth, a 7-inch hoop, one of our punch needle sets, and then my book. So if you, there's lots of information in here, like general information about punch needle. So I decided we would put my book in with it as well. And then one of the other things that you get if you sign up for the course is that we have all sorts of free punch needle patterns with it. So these are some of the designs that I made for different magazines. So they've been published, but I never published them as individual patterns. So I decided when we were doing the punch needle course that I would offer them as a free download. So we've got I think there's 5 or 6 of them. So there's one, and this one. And you can see all these ones are done on wool, like as little penny rugs. This one here and this one are basically the same design, except one's got a cat and one's got a dog. So they're called Polka Dot Dog and Polka Dot Cat. You can see there. And then a Valentine's one. And then this little bird. So all of those are free downloads in the course at the very end. And the course has 19 videos. There's 10 different lessons about all the different things you need to know. And there's lots of things you can download and print as well. So I hope this was informative. Do you guys have any questions? If you do, I'll take those now. No?
Christine?
Yes?
Do you always need weaver's cloth?
No. So one thing I forgot to say, most people punch on weaver's cloth, but anything that has anything that's woven that's fairly tight will work. So, but it can't be so tight that you leave holes in it. So you wouldn't punch on something like batik because it's so tightly woven that when you punch through, your needle might actually break one of the threads. You want to have something that's got a nice even weave, but it has a little bit of give. So the thing with the weaver's cloth, because it is poly cotton and because it's woven so that there's a little space in between each of the threads, when I put my needle in, they move out of the way. So I'm not breaking any threads. And I forgot to show you one thing with punch needle. If you take here, oh, now I've cut it off. Can't grab it. But, oh, I got that one. So if you don't like the stitches that you put in, then you just pull it. And then you just scratch it and all those little threads go back where they were. So then you can punch, you can put a different color or whatever in there. So you can punch on anything that will hold the stitches as long as it's woven. So like a stretchy knit wouldn't work. Anything that's really stretchy won't work. But if you have something that you want to punch through, so I haven't tried this, but I keep telling people you can do it. If you wanted to do it on a piece of wool, and the wool is not tightly woven enough to hold the stitches, you can iron something that like a woven interfacing, fusible woven interfacing, and put it on the back. You would have your design drawn on it. You'd punch right through both layers with with your needle longer, and then that would leave the loops on the front of the wool. So anything that's like that, you just need to have something that's woven fairly tightly on the back of it. So you just work from that. But most people use the weaver's cloth just because it doesn't stretch a lot, but it has a bit of give. So when you put your needle in there, you're not leaving holes.
So an Ada cloth would not be recommended.
I think it would be too loose. You could try it. I just don't know because because the holes are fairly large. Actually, if you wanted to use Ada cloth, you could use a bigger needle. So like if you use the large needle or something like the Oxford punch needle, I'll show you what it looks like. So this is what the Oxford punch looks like. So it's the same idea, but it's much bigger. So see how big that needle is? So this type of thing, maybe a smaller version of this that's somewhere between the two would work on Ada cloth because it is nicely woven and it's even. So I think it would work, but you just need to have a big enough needle and thread to go with it. That's all.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Great. I'm glad you liked it. Thanks for joining in. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.